qui est dans l'opération depuis des années. C'est le papa IDPs qui pourra aussi vous entretenir là-dessus. Donc, n'hésitez pas à le contacter directement. Merci à tous pour votre participation et bonne suite.
Thank you very much, Justine, and sorry that we have to close. Some people have planned their travel around a finish at 12:45, and we have one more session to go, so we need to get going. So welcome back. Come on and take your seats as quickly as you can. Again, if you do want to give feedback on any of the breakout sessions you've just been to, you can do so using the QR code that's just there. And I'm going to ask if we have facilitators from any of the breakout sessions in the room. Could the facilitators from the breakout sessions, or at least one of them, come up to the front? So come and join me if you're a facilitator from one of the breakout sessions. Yeah. Whilst we're waiting for those facilitators, we're going to have a quick word from Giovanna with regards to the Community Engagement Forum. Alisa, can we do the next slide?
So before we all leave, I wanted to ask you if you managed to become a member of the Community Engagement Forum. And there will be the QR code soon on the screen. So the Community Engagement Forum is a community of practitioners, is a community of CCM practitioners that are passionate about community engagement, so communication with community, participation, CFM. It is designed for CCM practitioners, but of course anybody is welcome. We have also members from other sectors and clusters and from the academia. So if you want to become a member, please become a member. That one is the QR code. You can also follow the Community Engagement Forum on Instagram. It's very easy to find, Community Engagement Forum. It's a space to share ideas, to make questions. We organize webinar based on your ideas and proposition. And also, this is very important for everybody, we can also offer support. So if you have, if you want to talk with a community engagement expert, which is actually, and Christine, she's the facilitator of the forum, she's there ready to help you. So please join the forum and get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Gio. So do so. Alisa, can we go back to the previous slide? Great. So here we are. Let's hear. So we have Vincent, who was involved in building bridges from CCCM to solutions. What was the one powerful message for the strategy, Vincent?
Okay, thank you so much. No, I think interesting interaction with the audience. I think we have all a common understanding that it's critical to link from day one the CCCM approach with the durable solution. And it should be probably, even now I'm developing even further to have a common strategy. So we took the example of Afghanistan and Iraq. Afghanistan, the complexity of dealing with the de facto authorities. Iraq, when the authorities have decided to close quickly, suddenly some camps, without necessarily having a clear nexus approach. Are two different cases, but two very challenging cases. But say that, obviously, and again, some colleague had very good comment in the audience. It's not only CCCM and durable solution colleagues, but also it's include donors. If we do not have donors, and donors in plural, donors from the humanitarian side, donors from the developing side, with us on board, understanding the situation, understanding and having a common vision with the three parties involved, we may have a complicated situation. Yeah. So very open discussion, and I believe that the discussion will still continue. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vincent. And we were looking at how to measure participation and representation, correct, both of you? Okay, you're going to sing into the mic, both of you. Let's see.
This is karaoke. Yes, we were looking at how we can use the camp management minimum standards on those, specifically on participation and representation. There's 4 standards, to use them as a framework for measuring meaningful participation and information sharing and complaints and feedback mechanisms and representation and governance. Some very interesting discussions around how we can measure meaningfulness here and the outcome level. And Richard will take it to the strategic level.
So what is the big message for the strategy, Richard?
The big message that we got from the session that we should stop consulting IDPs during assessments only. We should now go back and have a workshop with them when we're designing the strategy so that they influence what goes into your strategy.
That's a really important point. So IDPs need to be involved in the development of the strategy. So when we're planning how we develop the strategy, we need to start thinking about that from the beginning. Thank you very much, both of you. Schools as collective centres, Juan.
Thanks, Charlie. The session looked at some of the findings and recommendations from the draft report that we'll be releasing soon on the use of schools as collective centers. Some of the key discussions also look at the fact that we usually do not have the influence on where people end up when they're displaced. We need to also understand the government plan, policies and decree and positions around what is made available in time of crisis. And when we talk about the fact that we need to have an adaptive guidance that looks at both coordination, advocacy, as well as how to improve operational input on the ground. We talk about responsible use of schools, about win-win agreement, not with just education actors, but also with child protection, but also recognizing that a lot of this work is part of the development work. So it's very much also need to include them into the discussion, but also to make sure that there is like an audit or a mechanism to also monitor how we do it, how we return it, and that we look at preparedness work we can do as well as afterwards where decommissioning happen and clean up, and how we can return the schools in the good condition while also looking at how education can continue during displacement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan, and apologies for interrupting the localization session. What was the key message for the strategy?
So we had a few examples from Burkina Faso, but also participations from Nigeria and other examples, and they went, I would say the key message is that localization is new to us. We tend to think of certain examples based on what we've seen, but it's good to keep in mind localization comes in can come in all the steps. So in the preparation could be local, the planning, the implementation and the evaluation all need to be localized, but also depending on the context and what types of actors you are working with, there are also different types of actors that can play an important role in the localization, going from communities, local NGOs to governments, and I would summarize it this way.
Thank you very much. And I saw that our fire folk ran in at the end, fresh from the fire. What was the key message in your session, Helen?
That people really care about this issue. The attendance was fantastic. That really, in terms of thinking strategically, that we have to start seeing fire as a cross-cluster, cross-sector. It's a cross-cutting issue. There are huge amounts that CCCM actors can do in order to find out what responses, what awareness raising, what education and engagement activities, what solutions would actually work in the context in which people live. Because one size fits all guidance, one size fits all toolkit, the delivery of fire extinguishers as technical solutions are not going to solve the problem. We have to be thinking holistically. We have to see all of those different elements as connected and start seeing it as a cross-cutting and contextually important issue.
Thank you very much. And can we say anything from our closed door open discussion, or is it totally confidential?
Yes. No. As it is a closed door, obviously we won't be sharing the findings. However, there was maybe a more practical discussion, maybe more camp and site focused rather than some of the big global burning issues, with discussions around housing, land and property rights, host community interactions, and extortion, aid diversion. So cross-cutting themes, overlapping, but with more of a focus on the practicalities, the site level, the camp level, rather than some of the wider global issues.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone from our GBV Child Protection session? Joe's just arrived. So in that case, while Joe is coming to the front, I will update on the cluster coordination toolkit. And I think the message, I was chatting with Kate earlier, and the message from this is really to say, we talk a lot about quality. We talk a lot about doing things in a consistent and high quality way. And here, under development, is a toolkit that can really help in that regard, but only if we take time to go at it and look at it. So please do, if you get the chance, the time, go and have a look at that toolkit because it's incredibly useful. Joe.
Yes, hi. We just had a really interesting session on GBV and CP risk identification with the GBV and CP AORs. If they're still here, thank you again for joining us. We did come out with a list of things to work on. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we have some various tools and suggestions of how we can work together better to improve risk identification in the field.
Thank you very much. And again, a huge thank you to all of our facilitators. Just, you may or may not be aware that they volunteered sessions, so they took their own time to think up a session, they volunteered a session, then they had to deal with me harassing them to talk about their session, to get a meeting with them, to discuss what they were going to do. They had to design a session plan, they had to submit and do all the work to develop it as well as what you experienced today. So a huge thank you. 25 sessions, I think we had, or 24 sessions. So an incredible effort from everybody. Thank you very much. Before we end, oh yes, let's do that. So before we end today, I want to do one more exercise around strategy. Then I'm going to hand over to Juan and Des for some final words before we do evaluations and photos. So my exercise is this, and it involves 3 steps. They're really short, they're really easy, they're not going to hurt at all, I promise. The first one is for you to do individually. So I just want you to take a moment and think. I want you to think back to what we did on Wednesday and what we did yesterday and what you did today. And I want you to think about it in the context of your work and your experience and knowledge. We have 150 odd people in here with about 10 to 20 years experience. So we have somewhere in the region of 2,000 years of experience in the room at the moment. We have a lot of power. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about, based on all that experience and based on everything we've done over the last 3 days, I'd like you to think about one objective that you think absolutely has to be in the strategy. So a single objective that needs to go into the strategy for the next 3 to 5 years for CCCM globally. And let me define that. Because very often we say, oh, you know, the global CCCM cluster, that's the people in Geneva, right? That's not what I mean. I don't mean a single team in Geneva. I mean the work of CCCM globally. So if we think about the work of CCCM globally, what is a single objective that has to be in the strategy? Aliza, can you do the next slide? No, next one. Oh, there. Keep coming. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's the wrong one. Keep going. There we go. So there's the instruction. Write an objective for CCCM globally that you think should be included in the strategy. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write it on a post-it. Okay? Do that now. You've got 2 minutes. And then I'd like you to stick your post-it onto the white piece of paper in front of you. We always have different writing speeds and thinking speeds, so let's wait for our colleagues who are still thinking and writing. If you are done, just stick your post-it note onto the white sheet of paper that is on your table. So when you've written it, put it onto the white piece of paper on the table in front of you. Any point on the paper, just stick it to the paper, that's fine. And I can see lots of post-it notes going onto papers now. We'll just wait one more minute for people to finish writing and thinking. If you're on a table with just 2 or 3 people, then pick up your post-it notes and put them on the table next to you on their white piece of paper. I will help here. So you've just joined this table. Okay, has everybody done that? Give me a wave if you've done it. Yay, okay, good. So right, here's the really difficult step. So everyone's written one objective on a post-it and they've put the post-it on the white piece of paper. If the objective's still in your hand, put it on the piece of paper. Now, what we're going to do is this. Everyone's going to stand up, right? And we're going to start here. So this table over here is going to, leaving their belongings like they would in emergency, I'd like you to move to this table, and I'd like these people to jump up and move to this table, and you're going to move to this table, and these people are going to move to that table there, and then we're going to come back down the middle. So people on that table are going to come to this one. You guys come to this one, and you move this way. So keep pushing the next table along till you get to the end, and on the end, you go to the table at the back and push them all the way along. So everyone's moved along one table. Just move along one table. Come on, push them along. If they're dallying, hurry them along. And if you're under the screen at the back and you're left displaced, come all the way back round here to the table at the beginning. So if you're the last table at the back and you're left displaced, come follow Tom. He's got it. So does everybody have a table now? And is it not the same table you were on before? Okay, so I'll give you one more minute. Find your table and have a sit down. Settle into your new table. Yeah, we started over there. When you're settled at your new table, here is your next task. On the white piece of paper, you have an arrow. It goes from the bottom of the paper to the top. The arrow indicates how important you think those objectives are. So I want you to prioritize the objectives with the most important one at the top of the arrow, and the least important one at the bottom. So organize the objectives from the most important at the top to the least at the bottom. If the objective is not clear or not measurable, you can remove it from the piece of paper. I know, it's a toughie. I'm tough like that. Gio's done and she's got a train to catch. you think they're completely irrelevant, it's just Marco was saying one of the ones on here is just saying durable solutions. Okay, so one more minute to agree from the most important to the least important. You're welcome to sit down if you like to. I know they're not your chairs. Sorry. Okay, so we have different progress in the room. If you're done and you've prioritized it, just give me a wave so I can see we're done or we're not done. Okay, we're done. We're half, so we'll give people just a couple more minutes. Okay, thank you very much for taking the time. Please leave those objectives on the piece of paper. I am going to come around and collect all of them whilst you're having your lunch. In a moment, we're going to hear, please take a seat because we're going to be here for a couple more minutes. Any seat will do. By the way, someone was missing a bag earlier. Have they found their bag? Yes, we found it. Good. Okay. Before I hand over to Juan and Dare to officially close the 2023 annual Global CCCM Cluster Meeting, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So as ever, take out your phone and just zap this QR code or type in menti.com and that code. This will really help us to try to make next year's event better. I'll just give you a minute to do that. If the QR code's not working, just go to menti.com and enter the code you have there, 76209740. Yeah, it will just say the same as this. So when you get there, the first question is this one. Just choose all of these that apply to you. If it's all of them, if it's one of them, if it's none of them, whichever applies to you based on the last 3 days. You can choose more than one. So we're getting up to about 90 responses now, I think. If you haven't been able to log in, you can just go to menti.com and put in the code at the top of the screen. We'll just see if we can tip up to 100 before we push on. So we've got about 150 of us in the room. So lots of knowledge gained, but I think what's really important for me is the yellow one, right? Because there's a difference between meeting someone and thinking they were nice and meeting someone who you're actually going to call because this is going to be useful and effective. And so that's really positive to see. That's 78 new relationships. In whatever sense in whatever sense you're calling each other, I guess. Okay, let's go to the next question, Elisa. So just four things to rate the event, 1 to 10. Be as honest as you can. Okay, and this is really interesting. I like these terms, relevance, practical usefulness, and good use of time, because I think that's what matters to us all. We're busy people. People are doing a lot. They've got a lot of work on. And these are really encouraging. I'm interested that practical usefulness is falling a little bit behind the others. I'd be interested to think about how we can change things next year to make it more practically useful. But against all of those scores, we'll just go to the next one. And what I'd like to do is ask you for one change. So one change to improve next year's event. Outrageous. I'm very happy that we have more snacks. So it won't be a surprise to you to learn that I work on quite a lot of events, and I work quite a lot with people organizing events, and they always say to me, everyone's complaining about the food. And I always say, if they're complaining about the food, then your content is okay. I like take it to Africa as a phrase. I'm behind that. Okay, whilst you finish those off, I would like to hand the floor to our esteemed global cluster coordinators, Juan and Dare, to close the event. So, Juan, we need you to sing this time for Africa, and we know that the hips don't lie.
I smell the conspiracy in this room. Was there and I have a feeling I know who started it. Oof. All right, it's still going. Oh, now we're getting location specific. Oh my. It actually was going to be one of the questions I asked you at the end of my closing remarks. Clearly, I don't need to ask it anymore. We might have to compete for it instead. But, so there's a lot going on. And I think, and we can also feel that change is coming. as my friend and colleague Jennifer have been saying to us. And we're not talking just climate change, we're also talking system change. And we as CCCM, as a sector, we are under a lot of pressure, as the rest of the humanitarian community, but we have a lot more to do. And we are expected to do better with less resources, while at the same time we're also explaining to other people what we do and explaining why it's so important that there is CCCM in the response, and why we are there to make sure that people are at the center, that people have the access, not only to information and to services and assistance and protection, but also they have ability to also have their voices heard, and that they're able to be part of that decision-making process. And I think that's why it's so important for us to continue to turn up and be there and work better with others. And I just want to thank all of you for turning up, because I think for our sector, like, you are like the most important thing we have in the sector. And thanks for the partners, and thanks for people who turn up for the first time. You know, I mean, the energy and the power in this room is really hard to ignore. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that we continue to go out there and explain and bring others to understand why it's so important that we continue to work with the government, with the non-government, with the displaced communities, host communities, at-risk communities, with other clusters, but also with development actors. I think so many of our discussions over the last few days have shown how we span across everything from preparedness, localization, development, you know, disability inclusion, mainstreaming of protection. And so I thank you. It's been a really, like, you know, like days for me. I've learned so much. I've talked with so many people I've not met, at least in person before. And I think we have so much more things and a lot of exciting things that's gonna come out of this. Like, I can feel it already. So thank you. And I was gonna end by asking where you wanna go next year, but you know, was it clear or was it clear? And did we hear the people? So this year, UNHCR has been hosting, so I'm gonna hand over to Der, and with a big thank you to him as well as to his team, to making sure that we all got here and that we had these last couple of days together. Thank you so much.
You almost made me cry, Juan. Another round of claps for round. Really good. Well, you have made me cry several times. Don't worry about that. Well, I really don't know what to add to what Juan mentioned. I mean, first of all, it is overwhelming for us to see the fruit of the preparation and to have you all here. Each of you, really, when we see it as a global cluster coordinator, as a global cluster team, gives us that privilege and happiness to engage, to hear, to see you engaging, and to learn from you. But also, I think, as Juan is mentioning, it's a natural process that the humanitarian system is evolving. We are learning from our lessons. We are learning from the good practices. We are also learning from our mistakes. And what I really appreciated also in the past few days, the impressive openness for other ideas, the level of willingness in the members, in each individual here, our local colleagues, governments, donors, internationals, global cluster coordinators. It is very impressive to see that very few said, this is my opinion and this is the right thing and I think you are wrong, which happens very often, even when we bring much lesser number. I saw the opposite. I saw people said, I'm ready to hear, I'm ready to understand, I'm ready to broaden my scope, and I would like to share my ideas with you. And I think this really makes us very optimistic. We have to keep positioning ourselves to better adapt and embrace the changes. As we said, the review is happening. There is more calls for solution-oriented approaches. There are more calls for longer terms. There are more calls for partnerships, to think completely out of box, engage with different actors, and so on and so forth. We have to really be able to do that. I also would like then to thank the heads of the working groups and the cluster coordinators from the different countries to help us bring different actors to come and join this. I definitely want to thank the donors who also made the effort to come and to listen to us and to listen to the others. We also raised our expectations, by the way, so donors, we're not going to let you alone after that one. We will come, reach out to you to try better advocate for our cluster resources. So thank you very much for coming. I have to tell also, since one said we are alternating every year, if you just sit to see the level of preparations for this is massive. The colleagues, starting with Ruxandra, and I don't know whether I can see Ruxandra or not. Joe, Clara, Aliza, Amabel, all of them, yes, Manuel, please, Dominic, I can say, Aliza, come over, come, please. Sometimes I was seriously worried about their capacity to cope with the preparations, but we are really proud of it. You know, like each agenda item sometimes is actually a discussion, you know, like each word, each preparation, each visa request, each passport number, each arrival, each ticket. It's a lot of work. So really, really thank you for all your support and the help. We appreciate that. And sorry if I was not very useful. Charlie, thank you so much. Always pleasure to have such a dynamic actor with us. Yes. We like it, Charlie. We are learning. You bring a lot of energy to the room. Our interpreters, the hidden soldiers behind who made people understand, get the messages. Thank you very much. We know that you are there. We rely on you, and we appreciate each word you said. So thank you. Thank you, the panelists, everyone. I would like really, again, to tell, we hope to see all of you next year. We are also so delighted when we said, who is here for the first time? Most of you stood up, actually. And this is also good to know that we are having more and more people joining the cluster. We need new people to learn from as well. So this is also very useful. Even university colleagues, they came. So thank you for making the efforts to be here with us. And here, I am done. I would like to conclude, and that's it. Nothing more to tell from my side. Enjoy your lunch. And Joe wants to make a small announcement, and I also see that there is a call for a CCCM meeting in Africa. Motherland next year.
Now, if Facebook doesn't lie, it's someone's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
It's Juan's birthday, so let's all sing. I'm not going to attempt to sing by myself, but maybe we can all sing. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Juan. Happy birthday to you.
Best birthday ever.
On that magical note, please go and have your photo taken looking your very best in the foyer now, and then it's lunchtime. So photo in the foyer just now. Just here, just outside this main room in the foyer.